Hello everybody, how's it going? We're talking about Pound Town Galore fragrances for the ladies. These are more on the feminine side, and I have to say I gotta give a brief refresher of what that means. And by the way, this video was requested by Sandra, so shout out Sandra. But Pound Town Galore means that the fragrance is the main driver as to why things are taken all the way. Taken all the way, okay? Because there are a lot of people on my comments that get confused and they're like, I got a couple compliments on this, it's totally Pound Town Galore certified. I'm like, no. Just because you get a compliment or somebody says your fragrance is sexy is like tiers below what a Pound Town Galore fragrance is. Just because someone tells you, oh, that smells nice, doesn't no, it is not Pound Town Galore certified. And by the way, these are all from my personal experience, all right? Because that's the whole point of this series, is that it's in-field testing. Like, this is shit that actually has happened. It's not like, oh, that one smells sexy, I'm just gonna call it. Like, no. There's no hypotheticals here. It's not elementary, oh, you smell nice. It's like, this is grown shit, all right? Anyways, we're gonna start with Lamar by Kajal Perfumes. And this fragrance has me weak in the knees every single time my girl wears it. Let me tell you that if you're a fan of gourmand fragrances, if you want to smell so good to a point where people want to eat you and lick you, then this is a fantastic choice for you. It's a sweet pineapple fragrance that gives the most, like, this one gives me such like a mouth-watering reaction when I smell it on her. It just drives me wild. I'm like, that smells so good. Yeah, and this one also has a very nice scent trail. So, and it has great projection. So when you're wearing it, it definitely reaches. And when she wears this, I can smell it, and it's just kind of like, I just follow the smell till I get to where I need to be and things happen. But this easily performs over 10 hours. I still love this, honestly, over 12 hours on her. So if you're a fan of the sweet stuff, specifically sweet pineapple, please don't get, when I say pineapple, specifically sweet, because some people get that confused with fresh pineapple scents like Creed Aventus, and no, they're very, very different type of scent profile. So we're gonna start with Lamar by Kajal Perfumes. Next is another gourmand that I am absolutely nuts about. It's called Angel Share by Kilian. And this thing goes crazy. It smells like a boozy cinnamon roll. That's it. If you like the smell of Cinnabon and, is it Auntie Annie's, right, at the mall, this is it right here. This is it. There's only two gourmand fragrances that I really do enjoy, specifically like on my girl, and this is one of them. It's just this and Lamar, to be totally honest with you. But this one had, I remember the first time I smelled it on her, my eyes instantly just rolled to the back of my head. I'm like, oh my God. And it just had it had me reacting in such a way where I was like, damn, I'm really loving this. So this one here also gives me like a mouth water. It kind of makes me salivate. I know that's a little embarrassing to say, but when I smell this, it kind of makes me feel a little bit animalic, because it's like, oh, that smells so good, but it's just, and it's on like a beautiful girl, you know what I mean, that I'm really into. It's just, everything goes perfect with this fragrance. It also lasts over 10 hours, over 12 hours on her. She likes to spray this in her hair, that's why it lasts even longer. But yeah, Angel Share by Kilian, so good on her. Next is her signature scent, which is Attrape Rêves. This one makes me absolutely weak in the knees, all right? The fragrance smells like lychee and cacao. So the lychee kind of provides this exotic, fruity, juicy sort of scent, and the cacao gives it like some sort of sweetness, right? A little bit of, just a touch of heaviness. If you don't know what cacao is, it's the fruit that chocolate comes from. So it's a little bit chocolatey, but not gourmand chocolatey. Like, when you smell it, you're not gonna think, oh, this is a chocolate fragrance. No, it's definitely very girly, very feminine. It's pretty sweet. But you know what? This has great versatility. This is a fragrance that you can wear pretty much all seasons, except on really hot summer days. Summer nights, you can totally still pull it off. So that's why I say it's an all season type of fragrance, because you can rock it year round. But of course, on the really hot days, just go for something more on the fresh side that doesn't have the type of sweetness that this one does. But also a great scent that is fantastic with performance. The scent trail, the longevity, the projection, all 10 out of 10. I still smell this on her 10 hours later. And it's just a really sexy, seductive, head-turning type of fragrance that always just does the trick for me. Like, this thing is, she knows when she wears this, she has me in her back pocket. It's so good. All right, next is a YSL fragrance called Blouse. And the bottle looks like this, except for it's a pinkish juice of pink, purplish. I think it's pink. But Blouse is my kryptonite. To me, it kind of smells like a more floral version of Delina. And if you can think of, like, that is the first thing that kind of came to my mind, where I was really loving it. It wasn't the first thing that came to my mind, but the more I smelled it, I was like, this sort of reminds me a little bit of Delina, but with more florals. And I love Delina. And by the way, they don't smell exactly the same, where you're like, oh, is this, you're not going to get them confused or anything like that. But after you kind of sit and smell the fragrances, like, the more you spend time with them, you're like, okay. Or with Blouse, you're like, oh, shit, it's so nice. So with Blouse, you know how I said with the Attrape Revs, hot summer days is where I would not wear it. That is where I would put Blouse, because it has that freshness to just thrive in the high heat. That fragrance, seriously, I think it's probably my favorite fragrance on her right now. But every single time I smell it, it's like, we can't go anywhere. We need to do something first before we go anywhere, because that scent is so sexy. To me, like, that thing just has me weak in the knees. I really love it whenever she wears it. And I do think, yeah, I'm going to say right now, that is my favorite fragrance on her. It goes. Now, I will say performance on Blouse, not as good as the other ones I've mentioned. It's a bit weaker. I still smell it on her past 7 hours, but she likes to overspray, and then she also layers her fragrances. Like, she likes to layer Attrape and Blouse, and that's nuclear. That is just, I was gonna say a recipe for disaster in, like, the most respectful way. You know what I mean? It's so good. All right, next is a fragrance that is the cheapest on this list. It's called Gin and Rose Water by Tokyo Milk, and I believe she got it for around $30, $35. And I will say it's not as sexy as the previous ones I have mentioned, but it's the fragrance that she wears fresh out the shower. Like, it's the scent that can do no wrong. And you know, sometimes when, like, you don't have to throw in a sexy fragrance, it's already attractive when you're just clean. Like, when, you know, your partner hops out of the shower and you're like, damn, it's just something about it gets you going, right? And then when you have a fragrance that's refreshing, like Gin and Rose Water, and it smells exactly like the name implies. It has that light liquor boozy vibe, and then it has that rose water, and I love the smell of rose water, right? I've sprayed it on my face a couple times, and it's just really refreshing, right? But anyways, the combination of that, and, like, you know, her hair's still a little bit wet, it's like, oh, I fold. It's really nice. It's really, really nice. So yeah, still not as sexy, but definitely it's still really, really, it's hot. That's what I'll say. It's hot. All right. Next, and I don't have a lot of these bottles. She has them. I have some of the samples, which are the ones that I've showed you. But the next one I'm going to share with you is Kilian by Tiziano Terenzi. Now, the reason that this one and the last one I'm going to mention are different from the previous 5 of them is that I am not too crazy about Kilian. I think that it's, like, probably out of all of them, no, actually, it's not my least favorite. It's my second to least favorite. But the thing is, it's this very fruity type of fragrance, right? And I was never really that into it, but it slowly became something that I sort of, like, the smell became addictive, you know, especially when you're wearing something fruity, and it had a little bit of freshness, but there was still some sweetness to that fragrance. But when your body starts to heat up, right, when, you know, things are kind of going down a little bit, and you're like, oh man, the sweetness kind of turns, or the heat from your body turns the fruitiness from the fragrance just a little bit sweet. And just imagine eating like a ripe mango or something. The fragrance doesn't smell like mango, but just imagine that, like a perfectly ripe fruit, and it's just delectable. You know what I mean? So that's kind of my experience with Kilian, that it's still an anomaly to me, but the thing is, I have fallen victim to that fragrance several times. Like, several times. It was like back to back to back. Like, it was just, it's something that's not my favorite, but it still has a hold on me, which is weird. But it's like, I would not lie to you about that. It's still something that it always still gets me going. Not my favorite, but it'll have me, it does it. All right, it still does the job. And lastly, my least favorite, holidays by Mancera. And if you're thinking, wait a second, I thought that these videos were like the sexiest ones, like the ones that got you. Of course, these are coming from my personal experience, right? But with holidays, if you've seen my videos of that fragrance before, I don't really like it. It's too strong and it's too intense. But the reason why I mess with it, because it was a one, or maybe a two-time thing. Maybe a two-time thing, but the amount that was used was so little. Because for me, holidays can be a bit much. Like, it's definitely a scent that gets headache inducing. It's a bit too sweet. And the coconut kind of, and like, it smells more sunscreeny than coconutty, right? But because she only used a tiny amount, I think it was not even a full spray from her sample vial. Like, when I was just kind of like, we were cuddling and stuff like that, I was just kind of drawn to this coconutty smell, and it didn't smell like sunscreen. I was like, this is holidays, you know what I mean? So it had me kind of getting closer to her neck, and I'm like, man, damn, that smells pretty good, you know what I mean? So in this instance, when holidays is barely sprayed, that's when I mess with it. That's when I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty hot. It's pretty hot. Not sexy, but it's hot. You know what I mean? Anyways, I hope that made sense. If you get it, you get it. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If I have discount site links, I'll put them in the description. But just heads up, with this, like the designer private blend fragrances, it's very hard to find discount site links for them, except Tom Ford's. You can find those on like any discount site. But with the YSLs, with Louis Vuittons, you would probably have to look on the brand's website or Neiman Marcus. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate, all the support, especially from the ladies on this channel that are recommending videos like this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.